when I started work life, I have been spending a lot of time thinking about modern storytelling and how storytelling plays a role in brand building and where companies can really differentiate. Something that we've talked about is, I think there's a really interesting take right now where a lot of companies have a lot of cash, but they don't necessarily have a strong vision for what their brand should entail. And so
Mhm.
when how this is taking shape is I'm seeing companies spend a lot of money on a launch video. So that's sort of let's launch, let's do something polished, let's spend a lot of money to get our name out there, but then there isn't really a strategy behind the scenes to continue to build the brand. A second thing that I've seen is there's a lot of pay to play right now. So
Mhm.
should we be paying a professional athlete? Should we be paying a celebrity to be a face of our company? Should we be paying to have our logo on a Formula One car or on a tennis court? And I think this pay to play is super interesting because without the underlying foundational brand work in motion, people are seeing a logo, but they don't know what you stand for.
Yeah, that's super interesting. We were talking about this yesterday. I brought up how I pay attention to Formula One and soccer teams like in England all have been sponsored by like betting apps,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you have with like Formula One cars, like each of the teams or one of the drivers has at least one of the huge AI companies like sponsoring them. Um, and this is after like it seems to switch out to be from like crypto to AI. And I wonder like how many people actually know like those brands, right? Like as compared to, Rolex and,
Yeah.
Disney, which have also kind of sponsored Formula One anyway, as well. And that is like a funny thing to think about where it's like these brands just have so much money now that they're just like, okay, where do we go? Like let's just raise brand awareness because that's one of the hard parts of marketing right now is like how do people even learn about our brand. The question is like what's that return on their investment, right? Like how are they figuring out whether by seeing perplexity on Lewis Hamilton's helmet people are going to the internet and being like what is perplexity?
Yeah,
um
Perplexity was the one that came to mind. I went to Labor Cup in San Francisco,
yeah,
match, and the 2, like, hero sponsors are Rolex and Perplexity, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, this was
yeah.
a very expensive brand activation."
Yeah,
The audience was very much the right audience for
right.
Rolex to be a major sponsor. I was maybe a little less it was a little less obvious that Perplexity was something that, carried that same name and weight and
Yeah.
something that, people obviously knew what they did. And so maybe that's a great brand awareness play for the right types of people.
Hmm.
I also think you have to have a very clear underlying strategy where it's much more than just seeing your logo courtside.
Hmm.
It's something that they're also getting, a healthy amount of education through other paid marketing channels as well, and so
Yeah, definitely.
it's sort of one pillar, but not the whole strategy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's what we're seeing at least with the other AI brands, right? It's like you have OpenAI doing major campaigns in Super Bowl, regular commercials on TV, and then across digital channels. Similar with Anthropic, right?
Now, something that I think is interesting that we've talked about is I think the best marketing teams today are thinking like film studios.
Hmm.
I've seen more and more, whether it's, I've seen this from HR companies. I've seen this from, like security companies, like maybe less obvious creative types of companies are actually investing in short form content. They're
Hmm.
investing in, fictional narrative content. I think we reached this part of the tech cycle where every company has a podcast. A lot of them are interview shows. It's, either
The
the founder of
same
the
guests.
company, the same guest, who's on press tour right now, who just came
Yeah.
out with a business book. Or it's in-person fireside chats,
Hmm.
customer conferences, and those are things that do work, but they're not differentiators. I think those are
Hmm.
table stakes. Like when I
Yeah.
talk to companies and they're like, "We're doing a user conference." I'm like, "Yes, and what? What
Yeah.
else? What else?
Hmm.
What else? What else?" You have all of this, you have all of these funds, you have all of these marketing dollars that you can put to work. Having a billboard, having a customer conference, like that is table stakes. Everyone needs to do it.
Hmm.
I think it's been interesting to see there are companies that are doing fictional narrative storytelling, building sort of consistent IP around their company. And to me, I think that's super interesting where, the world needs more whimsy. And I think tech specifically needs more
Mhm,
whimsy. Like there's so many companies that are thinking about, um, you know, creating new ways of building. Anyone can be a founder. I think Replic's done a great job. Like their whole vision is to really build a future where absolutely anyone can be the founder of something. So
mhm.
it could be a single mom with a high school degree. It could be a farmer in the most rural parts of Africa. Like literally anyone on the planet has an entrepreneurial advantage. They have life experience. They have a skill that no one else has. The missing piece for them historically has been access to the internet and engineers and the ability to build something. And so they are very well suited to have a documentary where it's interviewing interesting, unexpected types of founders. They can do programs like Race to Revenue, where it's documenting non technical and non traditional founders' journeys to getting something live. I think they're very well positioned to be sort of this like helping the 99% actually build something and make money from it. I also see this with, Runway's doing an incredible job from a filmmaking perspective where, it's great for all of the video and image models to say we're disrupting Hollywood, we're disrupting the advertising industry, we're, creating this new path for creatives. That's great to say on paper, but everyone's
Mhm,
saying that. So it's hard to really tell who the differentiators are and who actually understands how to build for creatives.
mhm.
But, someone like Runway, they're taking it the next step further. They're doing film festivals, they're financing films, they're doing education to teach young people how to make a film. And so I think
Mhm.
you have to think very big picture and you have to really connect with your audience in ways that just running an ad or just, sponsoring a sports team or just, putting dollars to work is not really the same as educating and really empowering the next generation of creatives.
We're also seeing pop-ups, IRL experiences where it's like you want people to go and attend and like meet people like them. Those are like super interesting because it's like they're realizing that it's not just online. It's like, okay, online is the first step, but then that next step is like come out and do something for us, right? It's like it's not just buying the product, it's like meet other people, become part of the community, and go from there. And then have, your users and audience like espouse, your company and have that be a different type of like, brand awareness through like word of mouth or referrals. We're also seeing a more direct route with like Polymarket and Kalshi having like grocery stores in New York. We just saw like, buses and like public transportation.
You'll remember this when I started Work Life Studios in
Hmm.
Silver Lakes. We took over Depop
Hmm.
space during
Hmm.
COVID, like steep, 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 steep COVID discounts.
Yeah.
So front in East Los Angeles, next door
Yeah.
to APC and all of and Warby Parker and like
Yeah.
all of the stores that were popping up. My investors thought I was crazy. They're like,
Hmm.
why do you have a physical location? Why are you next door to a bunch of stores? Why are you hosting pop-ups? Like what a massive waste of time. And I thought it
Yeah.
was so funny because I'm like, am I crazy in believing that pop-ups are the future or am I on to something? And for us it was so interesting because we could do creator nights and teach people how to use the creative tools that we had invested in. We
Hmm.
could partner with like the most exclusive, interesting brands. Like we did an event with Chrome Hearts and every A-list celebrity and famous athlete was there.
Hmm.
And we could host all of these interesting events where we're like, if you want to understand culture, if you want to build for creatives, you have to physically be present. And I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of people realize that. It's one thing to partner and do some UGC. A lot of that is so ephemeral, but when you bring
Hmm.
people together and they're meeting new people, they're experiencing the brand IRL, they're creating their own content and creating these memories that they're going to talk about for weeks and months and years to come.
Hmm.
It's a really special thing for companies to really invest in. And so I think for us, I'm very much excited about this new analog future where it's like a lot of the events that we have, people didn't have their phone out. Like
Hmm.
they were either mixed, they were mingling, they were maybe sharing Instagrams to like catch up with people after. A lot of it was like Polaroid driven, digital camera driven. Like people were really coming and investing in the community and spending time. And that's just paid dividends for our future investments, for our future funds. It's like we have such a great creative ecosystem because we spent years actually like designing these experiences where creatives could come and learn from each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the lessons to be learned, I mean, you've talked a little bit about distribution and sort of what does this modern form of distribution look like. I view Spotify, I view Amazon, I view a lot of these these scaled technology platforms as sources for distribution. I think if you're a brand new creative that's just getting started, there's ways of bootstrapping your own way of creating, and I think a lot of these existing platforms are really helpful. That being said, I feel like when it comes to, remixing content, clipping, I know there's a lot of controversy around clipping today. I think we still need people to come up with their own creative ideas. Like you
Mhm,
have to go into the wilderness, write a song, write an album, write a chapter, create a book. Like I think there still needs to be these periods where you can't only be clipping. I think you need to be generating net new ideas as well. And so I have been encouraging a lot of creatives, specifically in my circles, where everyone feels this pressure to create content, but a
mhm,
lot of the content is very quickly forgotten. I think if
mhm,
you're a channel that is purely aggregating content, you're purely clipping, you're going to get virality, but people aren't going to remember who you are and what you stand for.
mhm,
And so I do think there's still an era where you should take a few days off. You should go and sit down and come up with ideas that other people haven't thought of yet and really invest in like what are the things you want to be known for. And sure, you can use, clipping or remixing or other things to sort of support that opinion, but you still need to have like the core of what you're about and
mhm.
what your vision for a creative looks like.
2 things I've noticed, as I've started trying to grow my TikTok channel is how many marketing tips are just copy this viral trend for yourself and have that go viral. And it's kind of like an MLM where it's like the first creators that learn about a trend get the most views and then it, slowly filters down and then you got to move on to the next thing. And I'm not seeing any new like original ideas except for I
Yeah.
guess the original creator of the trend, and I'm just like, where are the ideas? Like where are people kind of putting things together? Marketing can be so boring if all you're doing is chasing down the latest trend. Why would followers follow you? Because
Yeah.
like you're not really giving them anything new. And I think that remains true for like companies where it's like you need to, at least remix an idea. Like, why is this even a trend that we want to jump on? Like, does it actually fit our audience? Will our audience understand? Do they want to understand the joke? And that's where it's like, if you really want to be a long lasting brand, you have to go where they are, yes, but then also talk to them in the language that they understand. And I think that's
Mhm.
where it's, some of the marketers just don't have that discernment or don't want to take that extra time to,
Oh, for sure.
come up with those ideas.
Yeah, and it's funny because from a design perspective, I find founders always go back to the same 1 or 2 companies that have
Mhm,
made really good design choices.
mhm.
I also find I mean, I can be self-deprecating. I mean, from a VC perspective, you should never ask your investors for design advice.
Yeah.
Like, VCs are notorious for copying each other's websites and copying each other's podcast ideas, and it's like they're
Mhm,
not the most original group of people.
mhm,
And so you're much better suited going to the grocery store and looking at cool labels. I'm like, go to Erewhon and wander around. You're gonna feel a
mhm,
lot more creatively inspired than asking other people or looking at other tech companies' websites.
mhm,
Or go to a record store or go to a bookstore. It's like go to places where you can look and be exposed to a lot of different types of design
mhm,
and a lot of different genres and ways of thinking. I think that's much better suited than I think what we're seeing a lot of right now is a lot of marketing teams are seeing one thing go viral or assuming that one type of design is going to
mhm.
yield the same results for their company. But I think it's much better to be weird and quirky and
Yeah,
experiment and look outside of your traditional sort of tech or business design schools of thought and
yeah,
just experiment in ways that we haven't been able to do so before.
yeah.